Record 11. No, I can't. Let it be without headings. Evening. It is somewhat foggy. The sky is covered with a milk golden tissue, and one cannot see what is there beyond on the heights. The ancient knew what the greatest bored skeptic, their god, lived there. We know that crystalline blue naked incandescent nothing is there. I do not know any more what is there. I have learned too many things of late. Knowledge, self-confident knowledge, which is sure that it is faultless, a faith. I had firm faith in myself. I believed that I knew all about myself, but then I looked in the mirror. And for the first time in my life, yes, for the first time in my life, I see clearly, precisely, conscientiously, and with a surprise, I see myself as some him. I am he, frowning black, straight brows between them like a scar. There is a vertical wrinkle. Was there that wrinkle before? Steel gray eyes encircled by a shadow of sleepless nights. And behind that steel, I understand. I never before knew what there was behind that steel. From there, this there, is as once so near and so infinitely distant. I look at myself, at him, and I know surely that he, with his straight brows, is a stranger. That I met him here for the first time in my life. The real I is not he. No, period. All this is nonsense. All these foolish emotions are only delirium, the result of last night's poisoning. Poisoning with what? With a sip of that green poison, or with her? It matters little. I write all this merely in order to demonstrate how strangely the precise and sharp human reason may become confused. This reason strong enough to make infinite which the ancients feared so much, understandable by means of the switch buzzes. Number R-13. Well, I am even glad. Alone I should. 20 minutes later. On the plane of this paper, in the world of two dimensions, these lines follow each other, but in another world I, losing the sense of four figures, 20 minutes, perhaps 200 or 200,000. It seems so strange, quietly deliberating, measuring every word to write down my adventures with R dash. Imagine yourself sitting down at your own bed, crossing your legs, watching curiously how you yourself shrivel in the very same bed. My mental state is similar to that. When R-13 came in, I was perfectly quiet and normal. I began with sincere admiration to tell him how wonderfully he succeeded in versifying the death sentence of that insane man, and that his poem more than anything else had smothered and annihilated the transgressor of the law. More than that, I said, if I were ordered to prepare a mathematical draught of the machine of the well-doer, I should undoubtedly put on that draught some of your verses. Suddenly I saw R-'s eyes becoming more and more opaque, his lips acquiring a grey tint. What is the matter? What? Well, merely that I am dead sick of it. Everybody keeps on. The death sentence. I want to hear no more of it. You understand? I do not want. He became serious, rubbing his neck. The little valise filled with luggage, which I cannot understand. A silence. There. He found something in that little valise of his, removed it, unwrapped it, spread it out. His eyes became covered with the varnish of laughter. He began, I am writing something for your integral. Yes, I am. He was himself again, bubbling, sprinkling lips, words splashing like a fountain. You see, it is the ancient legend of paradise. P, like a fountain. What legend referred to us of today, did it not? Yes. Only think of it a moment. There were two in paradise, and the choice was offered to them: happiness without freedom, or freedom without happiness. No other choice. Tertium non datur. They, fools that they were, chose freedom. Naturally, they longed for centuries afterwards for fetters of yore. This was meaning of their world weariness. Weltscheimers. For centuries, and only we found the way of regaining happiness. No, listen to me. Listen, follow me. The ancient God and we, side by side at the same table. Yes, we helped God definitely and finally to defeat the devil. It was he, the devil, who led the people to transgression, to taste pernicious freedom. He, the cunning serpents. And we came along, painted a boot on his head, and squash, done with him. Paradise again. We return to the simple-mindedness of innocence of Adam and Eve. No more meddling with God, good and evil, and all that. Everything is simple again, heavenly, childishly simple. The well-doer, the machine, the cube, the giant gas bell, the guardians, all these are good. All these is magnificent, beautiful, noble, lofty, crystalline, pure. For all this preserves our non-freedom, that is, our happiness. In our place, those ancients would indulge in discussions, deliberations, etc. They would break their heads trying to make out what was moral. Above all that, the style is the solemn, pious. Understand me? Nice, a little idea, is it not? Do you understand? Of course I understand. I was... Of course, I understand. I remember my thoughts at that moment. His appearance is nonsensical and lacking in symmetry, yet what an orderly-looking mind he has. This made him dear to me. That is to the real me. I still insist that I of before is the real one. My I of late is certainly only an illness. Apparently R read my thoughts in my face. He put his hand on my shoulder and laughed. Oh, you, Adam, by the way, about Eve. He searched for something in his pockets, took out a little book, turned over a few leaves, and said, "For the day after tomorrow, oh no, 2 days from now, O-90 has a pink check on you. How about it? As before, you want to her?" Of course, of course. All right, then I'll tell her. You see, she herself is very bashful. What a funny story. You see, for me she has only a pink check affection, but for you, and you did not even come to tell us how a fourth member sneaked into our triangle. Who is it? Repent, sinner? Come on. The curtain rose inside me, rustle of silk, green bottle, lips, without any reason whatsoever. Whatever, I exclaimed. Oh, why didn't I restrain myself at the moment? Tell me, R did you ever have the opportunity to try nicotine or alcohol? R sucked in his lips, looked at me from under his brows. I distinctly heard his thoughts. Friend though he is yet, and he answered, "What shall I say? Strictly speaking, no, but I know a woman." I 330, I cried. What? You? You too? R was full of laughter. He chucked, ready to splash over. My mirror was hanging in such a way that in order to see R clearly, I had to turn and look across the table. From my armchair I could see now only my own forehead and my eyebrows. Then I, the real I, suddenly saw in the mirror a broken, quivering line of brow. I, the real I, heard suddenly a wild, disgusting cry. What? What does that also mean? What does that also mean? I demand. Widely parted negro lips, eyes bulging, I, the real I, grasp my other wild, hairy, heavily breathing, self-forcibly I, the real I, said to him, to R dash, in the name of the well-doer, please forgive me, I am very sick. I don't sleep. I do not know what is the matter with me. A swift passing smile appeared on his thick lips. Yes, yes, I understand, I understand. I'm familiar with all this theoretically, of course. Goodbye. At the door, he turned around like a little back ball, came back to the table and put a book upon it. This is the latest book I came to bring it to you. Almost forgot. Goodbye. B like a splash. The little ball rolled out. I am alone, or to be more exact, I am tete-a-tete with that other self. I sit in the armchair, and having crossed my legs, I watch curiously from some indefinite there, how I myself am shriveling in my bed. Why, oh why is it that for 3 years R-O- and we're so friendly together, and how now suddenly one word only about that other female, about I-330, and is it possible that that insanity called love and jealousy does exist not only in the idiotic books of the ancients? What seems most strange is that equations, formula, figures, and suddenly this, I can't understand it. I can't. Tomorrow I shall go to R dash and tell him, no, it is true, I shall not go. Neither tomorrow, nor today, after tomorrow, nor ever. I can't, I do not want to see him. This is the end. Our triangle is broken up. I am alone. It is evening. There is a light fog. The sky is covered by the thin, milky, golden tissue. If I only knew what is there higher. If I only knew who I am, which I am, I. Record 12. The delimitation of the infinite. Angel Meditations of Poetry. I continue to believe that I shall recover, that I may recover. I slept very well, no dreams or any other symptoms of disease. Dear O-90 will come tomorrow. Everything will again be simple, regular, and limited to like a circle. I am not afraid of this word limited. The work of the highest faculty of man, judgment, is always directed towards a constant limiting of the infinite, towards the breaking up of the infinite into comfortably digestible portions, differentials. This is what gives divine beauty to my elements, mathematics, and it is exactly this beauty that other female lacks. But this last thought of mine is only an accidental mention of association. These thoughts swarm in my mind while I listen to the regular rhythmic sounds of the Underground Railway. Silently I followed the rhythm of its wheels and recited to myself verses from the book which he gave me yesterday. And I felt that behind me someone was leaning over my shoulders and looking at the open pages. I did not turn around, but with the corner of my eye I noticed pink ears spread like wings, the double curved like the letter. It was he, but I did not want to disturb him. I feigned not to have noticed him. How he came in, I do not know. I did not see him when I got into the car. This incident, insignificant in itself, had a especially good effect upon me. It invigorated me, I should say. It is pleasant to feel that somebody's penetrating eyes watching you from behind your shoulder, lovingly guarding you from making the most minute mistake, from the most minute incorrect step. It may seem to you too sentimental, but I see in all this the materialization of the dream of the ancients about the guardian angel. How many things about which the ancients had only dreams are materialized in our life. At the moment when I became aware of the presence of the guardian angel behind me, I was enjoying a poem entitled Happiness. I think I am not mistaken when I say that it is a piece of rare beauty and depth and of thought. Here are the first 4 lines. 2 times 2 eternal lovers, inseparable in passion four, most flaming lovers in the world, eternally welded 2 times 2. And the rest is in the same vein of the wisdom of the eternal happiness of the multiplication table. Every poet is inevitably a Columbus. America existed before Columbus for ages, but only Columbus found it. The multiplication table existed before R-13 for ages, but only R-13 could find the virginal forest and of figures of a new Eldorado. Is it not true? Is there any happiness more wise and cloudless in this wonderful world? Steel may rust. The ancient God created the ancient man, i.e., the man capable of mistakes. Ergo, the ancient God himself made a mistake. The multiplication table is more wise and more absolute than the ancient God, for the multiplication table never, do you understand, never makes mistakes. There are no more fortunate and happy people than those who live according to the correct eternal laws of the multiplication table. No hesitation, no errors. There is but one truth, and there is but one path to it, and that truth is 4. And that half is 2 times 2. Would it not seem preposterous for these happily multiplied 2's suddenly to begin thinking of some foolish kind of freedom? I.e., is it not clear of a mistake? It seems undeniable, axiomic, that R-13 knows how to grasp the most fundamental, the most. At that moment again, I felt, first near the back of my head, then on my left ear, the warm, tender breath of the guardian angel. He apparently noticed that the book on my lap had long been closed, and that my thoughts were somewhere very far. I am ready this minute to spread before him the pages of my brain. This gives one such a feeling of tranquillity and joy. I remember I even turned around and gazed long and questioningly into his eyes, but either he did not understand, or he did not want to understand me. He did not ask me anything. The only thing left for me is to relate everything to you, my unknown readers. You are to me now as dear and as near and as far out of reach as he was at that moment. This was my way of thinking. From the part to the whole, R-13 is the part, the whole is the institution of the state poets and authors. I thought, how was it that the ancients did not notice the utter absurdity of their prose and poetry? The gigantic, magnificent power of the artistic word was spent by them in vain. It is really droll. Anyone wrote whatever happened to come into his head. It was as foolish as the fact that in those days the ancients. The ocean blindly splashed at the shore for 24 hours without interruption or use. The millions of kilogram-meter of energy which were hidden in the waves were used only for the stimulation of sweethearts. We obtained electricity from the enormous whispers of the waves. We made a domestic animal out of that sparkling, foaming, rabid one, and in the same manner we domesticated and harnessed the wild elements of poetry. Now poetry is no longer an unpardonable whistling of the nightingales, but the state service. Poetry is a commodity. Our famous mathematical norms. Without them in our schools, how could we love so sincerely and dearly our 4 rules of arithmetic and thorns. This is a classical image. The guardians are thorns about a rose, thorns that guard our tender state flower from coarse hands, whose heart could resist, could remain indifferent to see and hear the lips of our children recite like a prayer. A bad boy caught the rose with his fingers, but the thorn of steel pricked him like a needle. The bad boy cried and ran home, etc., etc. And the daily odes to the well-doer, who having read them will not bow piously before tragedy. Those who come late to work, and the popular book stands us on sex hygiene. Our whole life, in all its complexity and beauty, is thus stamped forever in the gold of words. Our poets do not soar any longer in the unknown. They have descended to earth, and they march with us, keeping step to the accompaniment of our austere and mechanical march of the musical state tower. Their lyre is the morning rubbing sound of the electric toothbrushes and the threatening crack of the electric sparks coming from the machine of the well-doer, and the magnificent echo of the hymn of the United States, and the intimate ringing of the crystalline, shining wash basins, and the stimulating rustle of the falling curtains, and the joyous voices of the newest cookbooks, and the almost imperceptible whisper of the street membranes. Our gods are here below. They are with us in the bureau, in the kitchen, in the shops, in the restrooms. The gods have become like us. Ergo, we have become like gods. And we shall come to you, my unknown readers, on another planet. We shall come to you to make your life as good, godlike, as rational, and as correct as ours. Record 13. Fog, Thou, a decidedly absurd adventure. I woke at dawn. The rose-colored firmament looked into my eyes. Everything was beautiful, round. O-90 is to come tonight. Surely I am healthy again. I smiled and fell asleep. The morning bell. I got up. Everything looked different. Though the glass of the ceiling, though the walls, nothing could be seen but fog. Fog everywhere. Strange cloud becoming heavier and nearer. The boundary between earth and the sky disappeared. Everything seemed to be floating and thawing and falling. Not a thing to hold to. No houses to be seen. They all were dissolved in the fog like crystals of salt in water. On the sidewalks and inside the houses, dark figures like suspended particles in a strange milky solution were hanging below, above, up to the 10th floor. Everything seemed to be covered with smoke, as though a fire were somewhere raging noiselessly. At 11:45 exactly, I looked at the clock, particularly at the time to catch the figures, to save at least the figures. At 11:45, just before leaving according to our table of hours, to go and occupy myself with physical labor, I dropped into my room for a moment. Suddenly the telephone rang. A voice, a long needle slowly penetrating my heart. "Oh, you are at home? I am very glad. Wait for me at the corner. We shall go together. Where? You'll see. Well, you'll see. You know perfectly well that I am going to work now. You know perfectly well that you'll do as I say. Au revoir. In 2 minutes." I stood at the corner. I had to wait to try to clear to her that only the United States directs me, not she. "You'll do as I say." How sure is she? One hears it in her voice. And what if Eunice, dull, gray, as if woven of damp fog, would appear for a second at my side, and then soundlessly redissolve? I was unable to turn my eyes away from the clock. I seemed myself to have become that sharp, quivering hand which marked the seconds. 10, 8 minutes, 3, 2 minutes to 12. Of course, I am late. Oh, how I hated her, yet I had to wait to prove that the red line on the milky whiteness of the fog, like blood, like a wound made by a sharp knife, her lips. I made you wait, I think, and now you are late for your work anyway. How? Well, yes, it is too late now. I glanced at her lips in silence. All women are lips only, though some are rosy lips, tense and round, the ring a tender fence separating one from the world. But these, a second ago, they were not here, and suddenly, the slash of a knife, I seemed to see even the dripping sweet blood. She came near. She leaned gently against my shoulder. We became one. Something streamed from her into me. I knew it should be so. Every fiber of my nervous system told me this. Every hair on my head, every painfully sweet heartbeat. And what a joy it was to submit to what should be a fragment of iron ore. Probably feels the same joy of submission to precise inevitable law when it clings to the lodestone. The same joy is in a stone which, thrown aloft, hesitates like a little at the weight of its flight, and then rushes down to the earth. It is the same with a man when his final convulsion, he takes a last deep breath and dies. I remember I smiled vaguely and said, for no reason at all, "Fog, very. Thou lovest fog, dost thou?" This ancient, long-forgotten thou, the thou of the master to his slave, penetrated me slowly, sharply. Yes, I was a slave. This was inevitable, was good. Yes, good, I said, aloud, to myself, and then to her. I hate fog. I'm afraid of fog. Then you love it, for if you fear it because it is stronger than you, hate it because you fear it, you love it, for you cannot subject it to yourself. One loves only the things one cannot conquer. Yes, that is so. That is why, precisely why we were talking as one. Somewhere beyond the fog, the sun was singing in a faint tone, gradually swelling, filling the air with tension and with pearl and gold and rose and red. The whole world seemed to be one embraceable woman, and we who were in her body were not yet born. We were ripening in joy. It was clear to me, absolutely clear, that everything existed only for me. The sun, the fog, the gold, for me. I did not ask where we were going. What did it matter? It was pleasure to walk, to ripen, to become stronger and more tense. Here, I dashed 330, stopped at a door. It so happens that today there is someone on duty who, I told you about him in the ancient house, carefully guarding the forces ripening with me. I read the sign, Medical Bureau, automatically, only I understood. A glass room filled with golden fog, shelves of glass-colored bottles, jars, electric wires, bluish sparks in tubes, and a male number, a very thinly flattened man. He might have been cut out of a sheet of paper. Wherever he was, whichever way he turned, he showed only a profile, a sharply pointed, glistening blade of the nose, and lips like scissors. I could not hear what I-330 told him. I merely saw her lips when she was talking, and I felt that I was smiling irrepressibly, blissfully. The scissor-like lips glistened, and the doctor said, "Yes, yes, I see. A most dangerous disease. I know of nothing more dangerous." And he laughed. With his thin, flat, papery hand, he wrote something on a piece of paper and gave it to I-330. He wrote on another piece of paper and handed it over to me. He had given us certificates testing that we were ill, that we were unable to go to work. Thus I stole my work from the United States. I was a thief. I deserved to be put beneath the machine of the well-doer, yet I was indifferent to this thought. It was as distant from me as though it were written in a novel. I took the certificate without an instant's hesitation. I, all my being, my eyes, my lips, my hands, knew it was as it should be. At the corner from a half-empty garage, we took an arrow. I-330 took the wheel as she had done before, pressed the starter, and we tore away from the earth. We soared. Behind us, the golden haze, the sun, the thin, blade-like profile of the doctor seemed me suddenly so dear, so beloved. Formerly I knew everything was revolving around the sun. Now I knew everything was revolving around me. Slowly, blissfully, with half-closed eyes. At the gates of the ancient house we found the same old woman, with a dear mouth, with lips grown together and ray-like wrinkles around it. Probably those lips have remained grown together all these years, but now they parted and smiled. Ah, you mischievous girl, you! Work is too much for you. Well, all right. If anything happens, I'll run up and warn you. A heavy, squeaky, opaque door. It closed behind us, and at once my heart opened painfully, widely, still wider. My lips, hers. I drank and drank from them. I tore myself away. In silence I looked into her widely opened eyes, and then again. The room was half dusk, blue and saffron yellow lights, green, dark green Morocco leather, the golden spire of the Buddha, a wide mahogany bed, and a glimmer of the mirrors. And my dream of a few days before became so comprehensible, so clear to me. Everything seemed saturated with the golden prime juice of life, and it seemed that I was overflowing with it. 1 second more and it would splash out, like the iron ore to the lodestone, in sweet submission to the precious and unchangeable law. Inevitably, I clung to her. There was no pink check, no counting, no United States. I myself was no more, only drawn together. The tenderly sharp teeth were there, only her golden, widely opened eyes, and through them I saw deeper within and silence. Only somewhere in the corner, thousands of miles away, it seemed drops of water were dripping from the faucet of the washstand. I was the universe. And between drops, whole epochs, eras were elapsing. I put on my uniform and bent over I-330 to draw her into me with my eyes for the last time. I knew it. I knew you, said I-330 in a very low voice. She passed her hand over her face as though brushing something away. Then she rose brusquely, put on her uniform and her usual sharp, bite-like smile. Well, my fallen angel, you perished just now. Do you know that? No, you are not afraid. Well, au revoir. You shall go home alone. Well? She opened the mirror door of the cupboard, and looking at me over her shoulder, she waited. I left the room obediently. Yet no sooner had I left the room than I felt it was urgent that she touch me with her shoulder. Only for 1 second with her shoulder, nothing more. I ran back into the room, where, I presumed, she was standing before the mirror, busily buttoning up her uniform. I rushed in and stopped abruptly. I remembered it clearly. I saw the key in the keyhole of the closet, and the ancient ring upon it was still swinging, but I-330 was not there. She could not have left the room, as if there was but one exit, yet I-330 was not there. I looked around everywhere. I even opened the cupboard and felt of the different ancient dresses? Nobody. I feel somewhat ridiculous, my dear planetary readers, relating to you this most improbable adventure, but what else can I do since it all happened exactly as I relate it? Was not the whole day from the early morning full of improbable adventures? Does it not all resemble the ancient disease of dream scene? If this be so, what does it matter if I relate one absurdity more or one less? Moreover, I am convinced that sooner or later I shall be able to conclude all these absurdities in some kind of logical sequence. This thought comforts me as I hope it will comfort you. How overwhelmed I am! If only you knew how overwhelmed. Record 14. Mine. Impossible, a cold floor. I shall continue to relate my adventures of yesterday. I was busy during the personal hour before retiring to bed, and thus I was unable to record everything last night. But everything is graven in me, especially for some reason, and apparently forever I shall remember the unbearable cold floor. I was expecting O-90 last evening, as it was her regular day. I went downstairs to the controller on the duty to get a permit for the lowering of my curtains. "What is the matter with you?" asked the controller. "You seem so peculiar tonight." I am sick." Strictly speaking, I told her the truth. I certainly am sick. All this is an illness. Presently I remembered, of course, my certificate. I touched it in my pocket. Yes, there it was, rustling. Then all this did happen. It did actually happen. I held out the paper to the controller. As I did so, I felt the blood rushing to my cheeks. Without looking directly at her, I noticed with an expression of surprise she gazed at me. Then, at 21:30 o'clock, in the room to the left, the curtains were lowered, and in the room to the right, my neighbor was sitting over a book. His head is bald and covered with bulging lumps. His forehead is enormous, a yellow parabola. I was walking up and down the room, suffering. How could I meet her after all that happened? O-90. I felt plainly to my right how the eyes of my neighbor were staring at me. I clearly saw the wrinkles on his forehead like a row of yellow, illegible lines, and for some reason I was certain that those lines dealt with me. A quarter of an hour before 22, the cheerful, rosy whirlwind was in my room. The firm ring of her rosy arms closed around my neck. Then I felt how that ring grew weaker and weaker, and then it broke and her arms dropped. "You are not the same, man. You are no longer mine." What curious terminology, mine. I never belonged, I flattered. It suddenly occurred to me, true, I belonged to no one before, but now it is clear that now I do not live any more in our rational world, but in the ancient delirious world, in a world of square foot of -1. The curtains fell. There, to my right, my neighbor let his book drop at the moment from the table to the floor, and through the last narrow space between the curtains and the floor I saw a yellow hand pick up the book. Within I felt, only to seize that hand with all my power. I wanted to meet you during the hour for the walk. I must talk to you about so many things, so many. Poor dear O-90. Her rosy mouth was a crescent with its horns downward. But I could not tell her anything. Could I? If for no other reason than that it would make her an accomplice of my crimes. I knew that she would not have the courage to report me to the Bureau of the Guardians. Consequently, "My dear O-, I am sick, I am exhausted. I went again today to the medical bureau, but it is nothing. It will pass. But let us not talk about it. Let us forget it. O-90 was laying down. I kissed her gently. I kissed that childish, fluffy fold at her wrist. Her blue eyes were closed. The pink crescent of her lips were slowly blooming more and more like a flower. I kissed her. Suddenly, I clearly realized how empty I was. I had given away. No, I could not. Impossible. I knew I must, but no, impossible. I thought I ought, but no, impossible. My lips cooled at once. The rosy crescent trembled, darkened, drew together. O-90 covered herself with the bedspread, her face hidden in the pillow. I was sitting near the bed, on the floor, with the desperately cold floor. I sat there in silence. The terrible cold from the floor rose higher and higher. There in the blue, silent space among the planets, there probably it is as cold. Please understand, dear, I did not mean, I muttered. With all my heart, it was the truth. Myself, my real self, did not mean. Yet, how could I express it in words? How could I explain to her that the piece of iron did not want to, but that the law is precise, inevitable? O-90 lifted her face from the pillow, and without opening her eyes, she said, "Go away." But because she was crying, she pronounced it, "Oh, away." For some reason, this absurd detail will not leave my memory. Penetrated by the cold and torpid, I went out into the hall. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Outside, a thin, almost imperceptible film of haze was spread. Towards tonight, I thought. It will descend again and drown the world. How sad a night it will be. O-90 passed swiftly by, going towards the elevator. The door slammed. "Wait a minute!" I screamed. I was frightened, but the elevator was already groaning, going down, down, down. She robbed me of R she robbed me of O-90, yet, nevertheless. Record 15. The bell, the mirror-like sea, I am to burn eternally. I was walking upon the dock where the Integral was being built, when the second builder came to meet me. His face, as usual, was round and white, a porcelain plate. When he speaks, it seems as though he serves you a plate of something unbearably tasty. "You choose to be ill? And without the chief we had an accident, as it were, yesterday." "An accident?" "Yes, sir. We finished the bell and started to let it down, and imagine, the men caught a mail without a number. How he got in I cannot make out. They took him to the operation department. Oh, they'll draw the mystery out of that fellow there. Why and how, etc." He smiled delightfully. Our best and most experienced physicians worked in the operation department under the direct supervision of the well-doer himself. They have all kinds of instruments, but the best of all is the gas bell. The procedure is taken from an ancient experiment of elementary physics. They used to put a rat under a gas bell and gradually pump out the air. The air becomes more and more rarefied, and you know the rest. But our gas bell is certainly a more perfect apparatus, and it is used in combination with different gases. Furthermore, we don't torture a defenseless animal as the ancients did. We use it for a higher purpose, to guard the security of the United States. In other words, the happiness of millions. About 5 centuries ago, when the work of the operation department was only beginning, there were yet to be found some fools who compared our operation department with the ancient Inquisition. But this is as absurd as to compare a surgeon performing tracheotomy with a highway cutthroat. Both use a knife, perhaps, the same knife, kind of knife. Both do the same thing, is cut the throats of a living man, yet one is a well-doer and the other is a murderer. One is marked plus, the other minus. All this becomes perfectly clear in 1 second. In one turn of our logical wheel, the teeth of which engage that minus, turn it upwards and thus change its aspect. That other matter is somewhat different. The ring in the door was still oscillating. Apparently the door had just closed, yet she, I-330, had disappeared. She was not there. The logical wheel could not turn this fact. A dream? But even now I feel still in my right shoulder that incomprehensible sweet pain of I-330 near me in the fog, pressing herself against me. Thou lovest fog? Yes, I love the fog too. I love everything, and everything appears to me wonderful, new, tense. Everything is so good. So good, I said aloud. Good? The porcelain eyes bulged out. What good do you find in that? If that man without a number contrived to sneak in, it means that there are others around here, everywhere, all the time, here around the integral. They. Whom do you mean by they? How do I know who? But I sense them all the time. Have you heard about the new operation which has been invented? I mean the surgical removal of fantasy? There really were rumors of late about something of that sort. No, I haven't. What has that to do with it? Merely this. If I were you, I should go and ask to have this operation performed upon me. The plate expressed distinctively something lemon-like, sour. Poor fellow. He took offense if one even hinted that he might pose his imagination. Well, a week ago I too should have taken offense at such a hint. Not so now, for I know that I have imagination. That is what my illness consists in. And more than that, I know that it is a wonderful illness. One does not want to be cured, simply does not want to. We ascended the glass steps. The world spread itself below us like the palm of a hand. You, readers of these records, whoever you may be, you have the sun above you, and if you ever were ill as I am now, then you know what kind of sun there is, or may be in the morning. You know the pinkish, lucid, warm gold. The air itself looks a little pinkish. Everything seems permittable by the tender blood of the sun. Everything is alive. The stones seem soft and living, iron living and warm. People all full of life and smiles. It may be that in a short while all this will disappear. That in an hour the pinkish blood of the sun will be drained out. But in the meantime everything is alive, and I see how something flows and pulsates in the sides of the integral. I see the integral think of its great and lofty future, of the heavy load of the inevitable happiness which it is ought to carry up there into the heights. To you, unseen ones, to you who seek eternally and who never find, you shall find, you shall be happy. You must be happy, and you have now not very long to wait. The body of the integral is almost ready. It is an exquisite oblong ellipsoid made of our glass, which is everlasting like gold and flexible like steel. I watched them within, mixing it transverse rims and its longitudinal strings. In the stern, they were erecting the base of a gigantic motor. Every 3 seconds, the powerful tail of the integral would inject flame and gases into the universal space, and the integral will soar forward and higher like a flaming tamerlane of happiness. I watched how the workers, true to the Taylor system, would bend down the unbendable and turn around swiftly and arithmetically like levers of an enormous engine. In their hands they held glistening glass pipes which emitted bluish streaks of flame. The glass walls were being cut into with flame. With flame there were being welded the angles, the ribs, the bars. I watched the monstrous glass cranes easily rolling over the glass rails. Like the workers themselves, they would immediately bend down and bring their loads inward to the bowels of the integral. All seemed one, humanized machine and mechanized humans. It was the most magnificent, the most stringing beauty, harmony, music. Quick, down! To them, and with them, and I descended and mingled with them, fused with their mass, caught in the rhythm of steel and glass. Their movements were measured, tense, and round. Their cheeks were colored with health, their mirror-like foreheads not clouded by the insanity of thinking. I was floating upon a mirror-like sea. I was reposing. Suddenly, one of them turned towards me, his carefree face. Well, better today? What better? You were not here yesterday, and we thought something serious. His forehead was shining, a childless and innocent smile. My blood rushed into my face. I know I could not lie. Facing those eyes, I remained silent. I was drowning. Above, the shiny, round, white porcelain of face appeared in the hatchway. Hey! D-503, come up here. Something is wrong with the frame and the brackets here. And, not wait until he had finished, I rushed to him. Upstairs, I was shamefully saving myself by flight. I had not the power to raise my eyes. I was dazed by the sparkling glass steps under my feet, and with every step I made, I felt more and more hopeless. I, a corrupted man, a criminal, was out of place here. No, I shall probably never again be able to fuse myself into the mechanical rhythm, nor to float over the mirror-like untroubled sea. I am to burn eternally from now on, running from place to place, seeking a nook where I may hide my eyes eternally until a spark cold as ice pierced me. I myself, I matter little, but it is necessary that she also. I must see that she. I crawled through the hatchway to the deck and stood there. Where was I to go? I did not know what I had come for. I looked aloft. The midday sun, exhausted by its march, was fuming dimly. Below was the integral, a gray mass of glass. Dead. The pink blood was drained out. It was clear to me that all this was my imagination, and that everything remained as before. Yet it was also clear to me that... What is the matter with you, D-503? Are you deaf? I call you and call. What is the matter with you? It was the second builder yelling directly into my ear. He must have been yelling that way for quite a while. What is the matter with me? I had lost my rubber. The motor was groaning as before. The arrow was quivering and rushing on, but it had no rubber. I did not even know where I was rushing, down to the earth or up to the sun, to its flame.